Hi everyone, welcome back to Rebels Compass. It is Friday afternoon. Mel was going to join me today, but unfortunately she's not feeling very well. So Mel, I hope you get better soon. So I'm just here with Ben today at Vocal House Studio, and we decided we were just going to have a conversation and see where that conversation took us today. So before we actually got on camera, Ben was talking about a video he'd watched of Ottawa in the 1930s and down at the Rideau Canal, and how everybody looked, they were all dressed in suits and ties, and he said everybody looked so proper. And what happened, people don't dress like that anymore, people don't act like that anymore. And my comment was that I think way back then, everybody was more in a box than we are now. We've certainly pushed the walls of our box. We've certainly pushed our own boundaries. And because of social media and cell phones and the internet and various other technologies that we have available to us today, we get to see more of the world. We get to see people on a daily basis. And people are more open and more direct with feelings and emotions and just how they want to be, which is a really good place. But you were mentioning, Ben, that how that image looked to you.
Yeah, it was just striking to see, the difference between, I guess, culture and society, the way it looked then, as compared to now. And it was almost, I was thinking to myself, like, what happened? Everyone looks so proper and civilized. They're all dressed smartly, um, and it just like, yeah, it was a big striking difference from then and now. So yeah,
But the thing is, though, everybody looked the same.
that's right.
Everybody had the same suit. Women all wore the same type of dress, the same hat, the same style. Men wore the same suits, the same collar, which was probably the round type collar, and the short little tie,
Hmm.
and everybody looked the same. There was no individuality. There was no different suit style or tie style or bowler hat style or whatever that was like in the
Hmm.
UK. Everybody looked the same.
Yeah, and that's what I think. I was saying the same thing to Shannon, my wife. Um, again, sort of the same thing. Like, everyone looks so civilized, and she said, "Well, it's the illusion of civility, because yes,
Yes.
everyone looked and acted so prim and proper, and we had all these rules, but it was a very racist and very sexist time period, where people didn't really have a lot of rights. So they, like you said, they were almost crammed into these little boxes of behavior and appearance. And I think today we've sort of stretched those walls a bit,
Definitely.
and now we're living, our inner, desires or whatever. It's just more out in the open for people to see. So I, now we have this look of an uncivilized,
Chaos.
yeah, that's what yeah, it looks like, what's the world coming to, kind of thing. But it's just that the fact that we're more able to,
Express
yeah,
ourselves.
yeah, and
Particularly for women, if you look back in the 1930s, you know, women in particular, the man worked.
mm,
A woman couldn't go to a bank and get a loan, heaven forbid. You know, she had no identity other than the identity of her husband.
mm,
So thankfully we've come a long way from that.
yeah, absolutely.
But even 10 years ago for me, I remember wanting to go and get something, and I went to the bank for a bank loan, and I was asked for my husband to come in to sign for me.
Wow, really? Just 10 years
Just
ago?
10 years ago. And I was just like, wait, what?
Yeah,
You
that's,
want me to do what? I walked away, and it was never a discussion I had at home, but it was one of those things that totally blew me away. And I get that, okay, at that point in time, my income wasn't massive, but the loan that I was looking for wasn't massive either.
mm,
And just that, even to say, well, we need your husband to come in and he can co-sign for this, gave me a glimpse for that split second into a time when women had no control.
Mm.
You know, men did everything. They had no identity other than the identity of their husbands, you know. So thankfully, like I said, we've come a very, very long way from that. But we're still breaking through those blocks and boundaries and those control issues. And like I said, for me growing up, my parents were raised with that.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So it's just my generation started to push the walls, and now your generation is pushing the walls even further and breaking out of that box.
We almost broke them down.
Thank goodness.
And Trump's trying to put them back up again.
Yeah, there's more than just him probably trying to put them back up again. But
For sure.
yeah, we power to everybody that is doing that internal journey and honoring who they are. I mean, there's somebody very close to Ben and I that has done that, who I'm incredibly proud of. So I actually had 3 sons, and now I have a daughter. So my youngest son transitioned into my daughter.
No, your middle son
My
did.
middle son. Yeah,
I'm the
sorry.
youngest son.
Yes, sorry, my middle. Yes, thank you, Ben. So my middle son transitioned from my son into my daughter, and that was massive. It was massive for everybody. But I'm incredibly proud of who she is and having the courage to actually take that journey and honor who she is. And I know there's lots of people out there that have their own thoughts and opinions on that, which is fair. You know, you are entitled to what you think and feel. But overall, I'm just proud of the fact that she is actually growing up in a time where that's possible.
Exactly. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
You know, where there is technology and advancements in science and surgery that can take place, but that she actually feels like that she's living a fulfilled life. You know, where she feels like she's completely herself. And you know, there's many out there that are transgender doing that journey, and whatever your sexual orientation is really doesn't matter. It's just the fact that you're living who you believe you are and showing up in the best version that you are every single day, and not being told, no, you can't do that.
Yeah, and that I agree with. You know, if the idea that we do live in a time where people are able to, you know, freely express and say, yes, I identify as this, that, or whatever. You know, I personally believe there's sort of a slippery slope there when, you know, people start trying to identify as animals and, you know,
Yes.
different weird things. But
Yeah.
I think it's all a societal evolution, learning sort of, you know, what is you know, normal. In air quotes, you know. And yeah, I think the fact that we're able to you know, people are able to express that freely and not be as...
But even with that journey, you know, it's not a thinking decision. You know, it's one of those things where you really do have to journey inside of yourself. It's something that you know. And overall, I think that journey that every single solitary individual makes has to come from inside of yourself. It cannot be an external thing. If you're looking for happiness, it's not something that you're going to find outside of yourself. It's something that you are in your being. And if you're not, then there's that internal journey to find out why you're not happy on the inside, because there's no fix on the outside that's ever going to make that a lasting feeling of happiness. It's going to be a short-lived injection of, oh, I feel great today, and then tomorrow I'm go back to feeling the way that I felt. And
that's to me personally, I think that inner journey and that, you know, self discovery is really the only way to see yourself through.
Absolutely.
You know, whatever it is you're going through, you know, to seek help from someone else, you know, like you've said before, they can give you, you know, a direction or a path to go down or seek, or maybe a key to open something that you maybe haven't thought of before. But in the end, it's really only
It's really down
you
to
have
you.
to really delve and start asking some really hard questions within yourself, and finding those answers, and
Yeah.
just doing that and living that.
Yeah.
Once you do find that answer, is to actually go and seek whatever change it is that you feel you need to make, and don't let anyone else tell you that
You
you
can't
shouldn't
do
or
it.
you couldn't or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. I know we've brought a couple of people on already that you can see the past interviews from, and there's many lined up to come in future that offer different healing modalities. And I've talked about essential oils and even pharmaceutical drugs. It doesn't really matter what that is. Nothing is going to heal you but you. They give you they turn a lock, so when you go and see a practitioner, whether it's for Reiki or whether it's for reconnective healing or whatever that is, they are actually, my friend uses the term tour guide. So they turn the key in the lock and they ask you to walk through the door and then ask you, now, what do you see? What do you sense? What do you feel? So you're doing that personal journey for yourself. It's always you coming back with your own answers. It's always you that is digging deeper into what it is that's coming up for you and why you have maybe these symptoms that you're feeling, whether it's anxiety and stress, whether it's pain in the shoulders or in the knees or something else that's coming up. Because every single solitary thing that happens to us happens outside of ourselves first. It's always our environment. It's always an emotional reaction or response to something that's happening. And then when we don't let that go, we internalize that and it sits there for a very, very long time and festers. And these modalities that we can have access to now give us those keys to those locks where we can start delving a little bit deeper.
For sure. And I think, yeah, it's a little bit of both too, right? I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that meditation and self-discovery is going to cure your cancer or anything like that.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you, yeah, I definitely believe it will help you broaden your horizons. It will help you in relationships and how to be more confident in yourself and how you interact with other people, which will in turn lead to more opportunities, be it in relationships, if you're single looking for relationships, if you're in a job and you want to move up in that job. If you're just a nice person and you're nice to other people, you're going to attract more opportunities, so I think to think within yourself and find out if something ticks you off or whatever, these moments of meditation and
self-reflection,
can increase your ability to, again, have better relationships, better job opportunities, things like that. It will open the doors for your success.
Absolutely.
But it will not cure, brain tumors and cancers.
No, and I wasn't implying that at all. I was just saying, doing that internal journey will give you answers.
Absolutely.
It gives you answers to your own personal well-being. And like I said, everything that happens to us on the outside, we feel on the inside. And there's lots of different books and websites and practitioners to go to that are going to help you with that personal journey and to get answers for your own personal healing and enlighten you to you.
Yeah.
We're so in this box. But I did a class last night in Arm Prior, an essential oils class last night in Arm Prior, and there was teenagers in this class. And when you look at young people now, for the older generation, it's like, oh, they're disrespectful, they're this. I remember my dad saying the exact same thing about my generation when they were growing up. But there's so much more pressure socially now than there ever has been. There's younger and younger and younger reports of or reports of younger people suffering from depression.
Depression and yeah.
You know, it blew my mind when I listened to a radio show a couple of weeks ago that said they're now prescribing antidepressants to 3-year-olds.
That doesn't make sense to me.
It doesn't make sense to me. But what happened in our societal environment that puts that much pressure on, or makes someone feel depressed like that, or compressed? We use the description compressed, so your energy is so compressed down that you can't. It's like having a 10-ton weight on your shoulders. You can't lift it back up. You know, you feel paralyzed and immobilized to do anything for yourself. And I noticed that teenagers feel that a lot more now. That a lot more teenagers feel depressed, and
I think it's because not to harp on this. Oh, it's because of social media, you know. But I do think that it plays a large part in people comparing themselves to others.
I do agree.
You know,
with that.
because people only generally share the best of, you know, what themselves or their lives on social media. So when you're comparing yourself to that, like, oh, I don't have that nice car, I don't go on that nice vacation, and you know, I don't get as many comments and I don't get as many likes on my, you know, status, whatever, you know. It's this constant comparison between myself and everyone else. Instead of saying, you know, the way I try to do it anyways is compare myself to myself in the past.
Yes.
You know, how
Using
much
the
of I
rearview mirror.
exactly, like how when it comes to my music and playing the piano, just 6 months ago I really didn't know any chords or anything at all. And then now just recently I've started to do piano lessons, and I can see my progression, and it's just a way for me to say, look, I am improving, I am making progress, and I am achieving something that I wanted to achieve. Instead of looking at other people that play the piano and say, oh, they're way better than I am, I'm never going to be that good, I'm not even going to try.
I'm not even gonna
And then
try.
you just plateau and you never do anything. So yeah, I think that is a big reason why I think a lot of teenagers and young adults are feeling depressed and you know, socially anxious. They don't know how to communicate a lot of the time because they're so used to communicating through texting. Well, yeah, you know, like through text and other things like that. It's easier to think about what you're going to say because you can sit there and type something out. You can read it back 6 or 7 times, you know, and then
Press delete.
exactly you can edit yourself. Whereas in a one-to-one conversation, you can't do that.
No, once
You
you
know,
said it,
exactly, it's out. So I think people have a difficult time, you know, interacting socially, face to face, you know.
I agree with that.
We know without drugs and alcohol,
Yeah,
because
I
people can
agree
go
with
to the bar all day and get drunk and have a great time with each other, but you know, when it comes to real deep connections and friendships, I think they're becoming lesser and lesser of a thing because of, like I say, this.
Well, you lose the art of communication, but you do make that comparison all of the time. And like you said, you can go back and delete conversations until you write what you believe is the perfect sentence or the perfect comeback to the question that you was asked.
Right.
Whereas when you have a one-on-one conversation or a group conversation, you can't do that. You're interacting. And the other thing that we lose by texting all the time is the vibration of someone's voice.
And just the facial,
Yeah.
you know, there's a lot of facial communications that you get just by looking at someone's, you know, reactions, the way their lips move or the way their facial muscles move. You lose all of that.
You lose all of
And, you know, so you lose a lot of context
Yeah.
in conversations. So things can sometimes come across as mean or you know, whatever when they're actually
Exactly.
not, you know.
And,
so,
you know, when you read a text from someone, depending on what kind of mood you're in, you know, somebody could have sent a completely innocent statement. And because you're already frustrated or upset or something, you read it in a way that wasn't meant and react.
you put your own
Inflections on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it does have so having these conversations is extremely powerful. So we were talking about bringing teenagers together and making them more aware of that personal connection, and what do they do that compares them to someone else? Why? I know I did when I was younger. You know, we didn't have the internet quite so much when I was young because I lived in the Stone Age.
Mhm.
But we had magazines, so you always had those magazines that had been airbrushed. But when you're young and looking at that, you don't believe that it's been airbrushed. You just think this person looks
Well, even that,
perfect.
actually, just again, Shannon and I were having this very same conversation just the other day about false beauty standards and what Photoshop and marketing and things like this have done for young girls, especially on they're scrolling through their Instagram, and they're seeing all these models with perfect makeup and perfect the dimensions in their face, symmetrical, everything, perfect curves, and you look at some of these how it's done videos, and it blows me away what they can do with digital.
To smooth out all the
Yeah, it's insane. And
imperfections.
when you compare yourself to that, especially, you're always going to feel
Less than.
inferior. You're never going to achieve that. These people that are models are beautiful people before they get all this extra fakeness done by Photoshop. And yeah, they do the side by side, the natural model photo of what the camera took, and then what the magazine cover put out, and it's like two different people almost.
Yeah, absolutely. And which makes people camera shy. They don't like having the photographs done, and they beat themselves up and tear themselves down every single day. That is so what's the word I'm looking for? It just deteriorates your whole life when you look in the mirror and you start your day by tearing yourself down, that your hair's a mess, or your teeth are not straight, or your eyebrows are this, or the color of your eyes are not the same, or I wish I was this, I wish I was that, or my belly's too fat, or my boobs are too small or too big, or I'm too tall or too short. When you've got that inner critic continually going over that over and over and over and over and over again, it's no wonder that the teenagers, girls and boys, so this is not just exclusive to girls that have this self-worth image, it's boys too.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, for sure.
And I know that listening to my grandson, who's 14, he's going through that same identity, where do I fit kind of thing, and it's we all go through it as teenagers.
Absolutely.
But I think there's more pressure now than ever before. So when it comes to doing this personal journey and having the right words to say, and the a good environment to go to where you can get this information to help support you as you identify with your own internal self, is very, very powerful.
Absolutely. And something you said earlier, yeah, sorry, I lost my train of thought. I do this a lot.
That's okay. I mean, when we go back to comparisons, so my own personal journey of that, I compared myself all the time to people that I went to school with. They were always smarter than me, prettier than me, whatever that was. But my biggest comparison that I ever made, that held me back my entire life, was that I wasn't smart. Because everything that I ever looked towards that was smart was somebody who was academically smart.
Right.
So they could read a book, they could retain the information and regurgitate that information back. Okay, so my brother was really, really smart like that and could do that. My ex-husband was like that. And a lot of people around me were academically smart. They could read a book. So everything that when I came to do something or do something like this or talk to somebody, I always went to the background and hid myself. And part of that statement growing up was, it's always better to sit there and look a fool than to open your mouth and remove all doubt.
Right.
That was entrained into me as a child.
Right.
And continued throughout my adulthood, so that gave my personal power away to every single person that was academically smart. And I think I was in my 40s plus before something happened, and I don't remember what the event was, but something happened that made me take a step back. And I think it was a conversation that I was having with someone that made me take a step back and go, wait a minute, I have heart intelligence, I have wisdom, I have understanding, I have compassion, I have all of those things that makes me smart in a very, very different way.
And that's it. I mean, there's different levels of intelligence. Just because you don't have, quote unquote book smarts, and you're not an engineer, you can't build a building. I can't build a skyscraper or put a computer together. But I wouldn't consider myself an unintelligent person.
No, but that's where we make the comparisons and where we put ourselves down and make ourselves feel less than.
For sure. But it's like, I think it was Einstein that said, if you judge a fish on its ability to climb a tree, it'll go its whole life thinking it's stupid because it can't climb a tree,
Yeah.
And we're not all built the same. We're not all, some people are math geniuses and it just makes sense to them. But some people are more, creative and artistic and have, more sense when it comes to that kind of thing. So yeah, again, it just comes full circle, and you don't compare yourself to other people. If you're always doing that, you're always going to feel less than, because you never compare yourself to people that you perceive as less than you.
No,
you always compare yourself to people who you perceive as better than you. Like, why don't I have that awesome thing? Why can't I do that thing as good as that person? So you're always going to feel less than. But if you compare yourself to yourself in the past and say, okay, I was, I started doing this thing and I really sucked at it, but now I've practiced and I'm better at it, I can see improvement. It makes you feel good about yourself because you can see that progress.
So it's that internal reflection. And like I've said, the rear view mirror is a perfect place for that. We use the rear view mirror when we're driving. You don't constantly look in the rear view mirror and go, I made a mess of that. Well, I missed that turn. You look in the rear view mirror just to see what's coming up behind you and to see how far you've come.
Yeah.
Whereas you're constantly looking forward to go to your destination. So using that rear view mirror analogy gives you the ability to see how far you've come and to see how you've improved and to see the distance that you've traveled from point A to point B and what wisdom or what knowledge or what abilities you've gained from point A to point B.
Exactly. And like we said on the very first conversation that we had, about setting goals. You have to set yourself some goals. What do you want to achieve? What do you have? What are you passionate about? What do you see yourself doing? And then go towards that. Because then you can say, okay, this is day one. I want to achieve X. And then, do that. Don't let anyone tell you that you can't or you shouldn't. Go and do it. If that's what you really want to do, find ways to do it. And it might not happen overnight. It could take years and years and years, but find ways to go for what you're passionate about. And then after 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, look back from that day that you started and say, how much progression have I made on that goal that I wanted to achieve? And if it's not very much, start asking yourself why and what can I change to change that? And if you've made a lot of progress and you feel good about yourself, then that will release endorphins and make you happy. And it's just a good way to not be pissed off at the world because you don't have this or that. You always look at yourself and see the progression that you're making. Hopefully, if you've set a goal and you're working towards that. I personally think that's the best way to stay positive and, stay on that non-anxious side of existence.
Yeah. And, it's like you said, not asking anybody's permission, just doing it. But if you've got people in your life that hold you back, ask yourself why. How are they holding you back? Is it them really holding you back, or is it us blaming them for holding us back?
That's usually what it is.
Because you're afraid. And if you're afraid, then ask yourself what you're afraid of. Are you afraid of change? Because it's the only constant in life is change. You know, so if you have something that you really want to do, and you feel that passion inside of you or that drive to do that, and then you say, I can't, I'll do it next week because next week this happens, or I'll do it the week after because that happens, or I can't do it because such a body says I can't, or I can't do it because my friends won't like it, or whatever that is. It's you putting obstacles and blocks in your own way for you not to achieve what it is that you want to achieve, to fulfill your own self-prophecy that it wasn't going to work out anyway.
And you know what? I follow a lot of really successful people with social media. And coming back to that, social media can be a fantastic thing. So yes, if you use it in a way where you're always comparing yourself to other people, you're gonna, like I said, you're gonna feel bad about yourself all the time. But again, there are a lot of really good motivational people. Gary V, I think I've talked about him all the time. He's extremely motivational.
Motivational. Yeah.
And he, you know, he'll tell you, you know, fuck what anyone says, just do it. And he says it just like that. I'm like, he literally will get up in front of thousands of people and just speak his mind in a very positive way. And yeah, I don't know. For me, I think emulating theirs, they never have excuses as to why I can't do this and why I can't do that. So to look at how these successful people have achieved their success and the grind that they went on, and they didn't let anyone stop them. They just kept doing. They might have failed a few times, but they always say failures are your greatest learning situations.
We don't learn if we're sat in the same position doing the same thing.
Exactly. You've got to really appreciate every failure you ever had, and then keep going, and that's the key, right? And because you can't fail. No. You literally, there's nothing stopping anyone from achieving anything. Look at what, if someone would have told, I can't think of a name, Elon Musk, that he couldn't have started a space company that shot rockets into space and then land them again and reuse those same rockets. Yeah. That's insane to me. It's absolutely insane. Look at what these people have achieved. They can do, and you literally can do anything. You can. That we have cell phones. We can do anything. There's no limits. I mean, short of, I can't biologically, I can't grow wings out of my back and jump off of a building and fly away. Of course, that is impossible. But you know, we literally can achieve whatever we want to achieve. Yeah. You just got to go for it. And emulate these successful people. Exactly.
You know, have successful people around you. And if you have people around you that are successful, that are in your corner, let's say, you're going to have people that when you say you have this passion to do something or this drive to do something, they're going to listen to what you have to say. They may say, well, have you thought of this? Have you tried it this way? But they're going to say, that's really cool. I wish you the best of success. And let me know if there's anything I can do to help. I'm here to support you. I think that's fantastic. Or on the other side of the fence, you're going to have somebody that's going to say, I won't do that. That's not going to work. What the heck do you want to do that for? Well, that's a waste of time. Well, it's going to fail, so don't bother. You know, so you've got both of those spectrums. And ask yourself, when you have something that you want to do, what do the people around you vibrate at? Are they ones that are going to support and offer observations to you and ideas and support? Or are they going to be people around you that constantly say, you can't do that. That's no good. That's not going to work. Well, I wouldn't even try with that. You know, and we do have people like that. And I know I've had people like that in my life, you know, and I know you have, Ben.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so you're always going to have those people. And those people can stop you in your tracks. They can stop you, and that inner critic will come in and say, yeah, well, I knew it was a bad idea. And you know, it's like pumping up a big balloon with helium, and you're floating and you feel amazing because you've got this amazing idea and you're excited because it's all formulated. And you've got, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And then you speak to somebody and they start letting the air out of the balloon, and by the time you've walked away from them, you go, well, that was a crap idea.
Mhm.
You know, why?
See, it's about finding those people, because it's not necessarily wrong to have, you know, not necessarily put their idea down, but say, well, have you thought about this? You know,
exactly.
like,
We all need people like that.
yeah. But to be encouraging at the same time, you know, so
Exactly.
yeah, I really love your idea. Let's, you know, figure that out. But have you thought about this? Or,
Yes.
you know, and then it's a back and forth, and, you know, you can build on that idea and work towards that. But yeah, anyone that will, again, is just immediately, you know, why would you do that? Or they're projecting their own
Fear.
vision, right? They
Yeah.
can't see your vision. If you have a goal set and how you want to achieve that, that's your process. You have to go through that process.
Yeah.
You know, that's your vision. No one else, unless you can write it out for them, and, you know, and even then they're not going to be able to see what you see.
No,
So
they're
just do, you know.
Yeah.
Do.
But we set ourselves up to allow people to treat us the way they treat us. You know, so
Yeah, and that's true. You teach people how
You
to
teach
how to
people.
treat you.
I hold my hand up. I have done the same thing in my life. You know, when you know better, you do better. You know, but we set ourselves up, and because we have this lack of worth feeling within us, when somebody treats us badly, well, we think, well, we deserve that. You know, and we do that our entire life through our friendships, through our relationships, through our marriages, through our work colleagues, you know, whatever that is, we allow people to treat us a certain way because we've allowed it, and then we don't like it, but we allowed it, we set it up that way. So if you've got people in your life that do put an idea down, unless it's like sprouting wings and jumping off a building, like Ben said, then don't do it.
Yeah.
You know, then listen.
Yeah, exactly.
Listen to that person. But if you've got this idea of something you want to build or to create, a lifestyle that you want, you know, if that's something passionate within you and you know it's going to bring out the best in you so that you are a happier, more loving, more content, more peaceful person, that you emulate that with everybody around you, so you're more loving and content and happier with other people, then why should somebody stop you doing that?
Yeah, and exactly. And the more that you live in that mind frame of, I don't really care what other people think when it comes to, you know, if I have a goal that I want to achieve and people disagree with that, then I don't really care. I'm going to do it. You know, I have close family that I consider their opinions very closely. But I'm never going to let that stop me from doing something that I really want to do. You know, I will, like I said, I will take it into close consideration, but.
And that's what we should do, you know, take everybody's observations and opinions, whatever they are, into consideration. But at the end of it, decide, how do I feel about that now? You know, because like I said, it's us every day that sets up how people treat us. And that's where that internal journey comes, and deciding on whether that goal thing that you want to do, or that lifestyle change that you want to do, or just deciding that you want to be treated better and appreciated more, then first of all, you have to love and appreciate yourself.
Right. And it's like the golden rule, treat people how you'd expect to be treated. Right.
Yeah,
So
but there are
got to
people
go.
out there that treat people very, very nicely, but it's still treated crappy. Because they
Absolutely.
allow it.
But absolutely. But I wouldn't say that shouldn't stop you from being a nice person.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I
not.
mean? You should have a strong enough backbone to sense and see if you're being taken advantage of. And I think one thing that I was told by a close friend of mine, just after I graduated high school, and I was, you know, in a job, probably in a grocery store, and I was working up to being the manager of the produce section. And I was being given all these extra responsibilities that I wasn't necessarily being paid for at the time, because I didn't have the title of manager at that point, but I was acting in that capacity. And I thought I would, you know, I'm a nice guy. I'll do what I have to do to learn and figure this out. But at that time, I didn't see the fact that they literally were just taking advantage of the fact that they could get me to do this position without paying me what that position was worth. And one close friend says, you know what, you can be a nice guy until the point that you're being taken advantage of. And then after that, you know, you got to stop. You know, don't let yourself be taken advantage of.
Yeah, we all get to that point. I mean, I like in the very, very first video, I talked about, you know, I was raised a people pleaser. I was the negotiator in my young life within my family. I was the negotiator and I was the people pleaser. So I was trained to be that way. That's innately who I am. I enjoy being in service and I enjoy doing things. But being that people pleaser means that you don't go the extra mile. You go the extra 20, 30, 40, 50, 100,000 miles to please that person. But you still don't believe you deserve that back. Or if you do believe you deserve that back, on the inside, it makes you angry and upset. And
when you don't get it, because you don't get it, because you're never going to get the same reciprocation from that usually, right? And usually you'll go 1,000 miles for someone else, but it's very rare to find someone else that will do that for you as well. So
that's same for you,
because they're so few and far between, I think.
Yeah, but it's also about setting your boundaries and setting your worth. You know, you like you mentioned, you'll go and do a job. Somebody asks you to do something. I'll do that. I'll do this. But there has to be a line in the sand where you say, I'm not going to go past that point. This is my boundary. I am a nice person. I'm doing this for you, but this is my boundary. I'm not going any further than that.
Right.
Because once you cross that boundary, you're allowing then people to treat you badly.
Absolutely.
And the more you allow them to treat you badly, the more they'll continue to treat you badly because you set it up that way. Because you never said, wait, whoa, hang on. You don't get to treat me like that. I don't want you to speak to me like that. I don't want you to behave that way. I don't want you to take advantage of me in that way. Whatever that circumstance is, we are the only ones that can draw that boundary line and say, no, enough's enough. I'm not going past this point, and hold you accountable for the fact that you are now treating me this way, and I'm saying enough is enough. And the more you do, that's really difficult sometimes to do. I know in my past, that was one of the hardest things I ever did because my voice never came out. It was running inside my head,
right,
screaming, don't do that. I don't want to be treated that way. And I'd get upset. But my voice never came out of my mouth to say enough's enough until one day it did. And then when it did, it was alien to me. And I kept saying to people, am I being a bitch?
But that's the thing, right? You then would start, because you have this perception of being such a nice person and, you know, people taking advantage, where the second that you actually step into your own power and start, you know, setting those boundaries, people will like, oh, she's just being a bitch. Why that, you know, and so.
But by people saying that, what we've done is we've shifted the energetic boundary. So now every single person has their own energetic frequency and we interact with each other. So like attracts like. So with people that you have the same things in common, you can walk away and feel elevated and empowered and feel 25 feet tall, you know, and feel amazing. And then there's other people you can go in and have a conversation with and come out and feel 2 inches tall and feel disempowered. And so those energetic conversations that we have, when we change something within our circle, so people are used to us behaving a certain way. They're used to, when I do this, she's going to do that. When I say this, she's going to respond this way. When I do this action, she's going to do this action. So when you change something in that, whether you do it internally or whether you stick your hands up and go, wait, whoa, stop. When you change that, all of a sudden, everything that they've always done before doesn't work anymore. So then they're going, you've changed. I don't like what you've changed into. I don't like that you do this, because you've changed your frequency and pattern of doing things, now they have to. And the bigger the changes are, the more they have to change. And you either find that people evolve within themselves, or those people just drop away and don't interact with you anymore.
Right. And that's usually happens, and that's what I think is considered a codependent relationship, right?
Yeah.
one person isn't getting that thing that makes them feel like, if one partner feels like they have to have control, and they get that from their partner, but the other partner feels as though they don't mind having, being the one that is being controlled, if they think they're manipulating or getting some sort of advantage from that living situation, they're both benefiting from that.
Yeah.
Apparently, they perceive they're both benefiting from that. But it's usually a very unhealthy relationship because they're stuck in that box again, where I can't change, because if I change, they're not gonna like me anymore.
They've always done,
right?
Yeah.
And if they change, then so it's just a very unhealthy relationship to be in. So if you do find that, then try to get out of a relationship like that, for sure. Not a healthy one.
Not a healthy one at all. No, and if you're in a relationship with someone, then it has to be that where you support each other. You're not always going to feel happy on the same day.
Absolutely.
You're not always going to feel sad on this. So you support each other, and like say, when you have those ideas, you build the foundations, to building that relationship and making it more. And when you're in a relationship, you're either in a relationship where two people empower and support and bring the best out in each other, or you're in a relationship that's kind of meh, or you're in a relationship where it doesn't bring the best out in you and pushes every single one of those buttons for you to change.
For sure. And I think a lot of the time people say that you have to bring 50-50 to a relationship. But I think it's got to be 100-100, right? You both got to bring your full self to the relationship. But the best and the worst. I mean, it doesn't matter. You're a whole person. You have bad traits. You have good traits. But bring everything to the table. Be honest about everything, or at least try to be. And I think again a lot of the time it's that you just got to be 50-50, and I think it should be at 100-100. And I'm going to be honest. That's something that again Shannon and I had talked about, and that was something that she had said. But a relationship has to be 100% from both parties. Because if each person is only bringing 50% to the table, then
there's 50% of you missing.
Right, exactly. So, it's teamwork, and it's very, very, very difficult, and it's about being,
It's difficult or it's easy. If you're in a relationship where you have you can communicate and you can work through the process, then it doesn't mean that you're not going to hit those times that are tougher than others. But when you've got somebody that supports you going through whatever process you're going through, it makes that process a lot easier than when you in. For
sure, I know what you're saying. Like definitely, I think that again, a relationship, no matter what it is, it's difficult. It's hard. It's not easy. And I understand what you're saying, where it should like it shouldn't feel difficult to strike up a conversation. It should be easy to interact with each other. It should be easy to be a couple. You know what I'm saying? But to have a long-term healthy relationship is very difficult, and it takes a lot of work. And that's just being honest. And at least that's from my point of view. I definitely think each party has to bring 100% to the table. Try to be as honest as possible. Be good at communication. Not blow up and hang stuff over the other person's head. Like, oh, well, last time you said this and you did this.
Well, that's the filing cabinet, right?
Yeah, it's about saying, and again, just work as a team and try to be as honest as possible and make it work. Because again, it's not easy. It's not.
Well, when you've got that, last time you said this, last time you did that, that's that filing cabinet where we hold all of those emotional experiences. And unless we have the ability to be able to work through them and process them, then they sit in those filing cabinet drawers, so that every argument or every difficult situation, the brain goes filing through those filing cabinets and can throw them out at random, that on this date you did this, and on this date you did that, or that happened to me on this date, and somebody else did this to me on this date. So it's a process of working through those, and like say, building healthy relationships and being able to work through those processes so that we can actually release and work through those emotional blocks that keep us bound and repeating the same things over and over and over again, and pulling out those files over and over and over again, and reacting instead of responding.
And that's the thing too. Like, I mean, yeah, the more you can, again, communicate and process and, you know, respond to something instead of just initially reacting to something, it's going to make any relationship easier.
Yeah.
You know, be it friendships or personal, family, whatever relationships. Yeah. So, yeah.
This conversation's gone all over the place.
It has, definitely has.
It started off in the 1930s and ended up in talking about relationships, but every single thing is connected.
Yeah.
You know, when we started off talking about how in the 1930s everything looked perfect, but really wasn't. You know, it wasn't perfect for women for sure.
Yeah, or people of color, or, you know, yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
if you're a straight white male, then you probably had it a lot easier than most.
Yeah.
So I can understand today's animosity for the white man, it seems, out there today.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just something I'm experiencing.
In many ways, we've come a long way, but I think we're still only scratching the surface of finding out who we really are. And
yeah, I think, as you know, spiritually or as a race, I think we're in our adolescence. We're only just, you know, like you said, scratching the surface. I think we're little babies at this point. I think
I think we've only just come to that point, you know, where we're starting to do that internal journey. We look at everything outside of ourselves and go, well, I don't believe that anymore. That doesn't work anymore.
That was another.
So that's the only thing that you can do is go in.
And that was another thing they said on that movie that I was watching, a little documentary about the 30s. You know, it's like they were talking about the canal between Montreal and Kingston, and how they used it in wartime, and how war was the shaper of nations and that kind of thing. And it was just a very telling sort of mindset, you know, like war being the shaper of nations. I mean, why can't peace be the shaper of nations? And that's how it's always been in throughout history. I mean, that's the truth. War has been the shaper of nations and the builder of nations and things like that. But again, hopefully we're getting to that point where we're hitting our young adulthood, evolutionarily speaking, and we're finally getting to that point where we're learning that we're Carl Sagan's and people like that have said
we're more than just this.
Yeah, we're on a tiny little rock here. Every experience is a shared one, essentially. Everything we've ever done is on this planet.
It's the butterfly effect, and so what I experience today, someone else on the other side of the planet will experience tomorrow.
Right, and it'll affect what they do and what they experience. So
we're
all in it together. No one gets out alive. So what's the point in war and fighting over?
Well, that's right. You
land
know, and I think if we more and more as a nation looked at our similarities instead of our differences, we certainly would see that we've got more and more and more and more in common. We all have a story. We all have an experience. We all have that thing that wakes you up, I think, and sets you on this path of finding out what life is to you, you know, and doing that personal journey and that.
Yeah, I think traveling is a great way to do that as well. You really find out, you know, that's one.
Other cultures.
Yeah, and it's one way to see with your own eyes that we have far more in common, you know, than we do differently. I mean, when we went to Belize, you know, their culture is so much different than anything we're used to. But they're all the same. They're just trying to make a living. They're just trying to support their families. They're just trying to be happy and you know, achieve whatever they want to achieve. They're just people, you know. And the more you travel, you see that, and it sort of does help you understand that, you know what, we're all just human beings, you know. We're all just smart monkeys.
Smart monkeys.
And what's the point in starting war and, you know, killing each other? And It just
So find the best in each other and find the best in yourself and
elevate people, bring people up, help people out. That's what drives me
absolutely.
nuts, that we've got billionaires on this planet right now, and we have a city like Flint, Michigan, doesn't have clean water.
That's unreal in this
I
time,
think it's
isn't
Flint,
it?
Michigan. It's somewhere in Michigan. It doesn't have clean water. Can't,
Yeah,
it's insane.
it is
It's
insane.
absolutely insane.
Well, there's that. It was a video I watched of these young teenagers, trying to run and climb up a wall. Like they've got in these.
Like parkour and that kind of thing.
Yeah, so they were trying to run and get over this wall, and nobody could do it. They were running, and they could get the fingers to the top of the wall, but they couldn't actually get up.
Right.
And there was like 15 of them, all trying one after the other, one after the other, one after the other, and finally, one ran and got to the top of the wall, and he sat on the top. So every single one afterwards that ran to the wall, he put his hand up
Grabbed
and
them.
pulled them up. So they all.
So when one makes it,
everybody
help
makes it.
everybody out, right? And that's it.
Yeah,
If you
when one makes it,
and that's the
everybody
thing.
makes
That's a
it.
good analogy, because if you, I see the people that make it
Yeah.
as the successful, rich, wealthy, elite people that have this power to help bring people up,
Yeah.
and evidently they seem to not care.
Yeah.
And
But we
it's sad.
care.
It's like that person making it to the roof and then standing there with his hands on his hips, pointing down and like, ha ha, suckers, I'm up here and you're not. Like it's instead he reached down a hand and helped them up too.
And
So
help them up. Yeah. So when there's people in our own personal lives, how can we help each other up? How can we support one another? How can we elevate one another? And that is one of the reasons why Rebels Compass started. So that we could bring people on like Marlene and Guylaine and Kim and Lisa and others that we've got planned, to show that it doesn't matter what you're doing. We all have a journey, but we all have a piece of information that we can help support someone and elevate someone and pull each other up so that we can find the best version of ourselves and look in that mirror instead of being the inner critic and pulling ourselves down every single morning before we get dressed to go to work. Stand there and go, you know what, I'm fabulous. I look great today. I'm going to have a great day today.
yeah, there was a powerful thing that I saw, that a guy that was, I think it was on, so Shannon really loves this Queer Eye for the Straight Guy.
Yes, yeah.
So there was a dude that he was a chubbier dude, didn't dress very well, and his girl's trying to get him on the show to spruce him up a bit. And one of the guys asked him, describe yourself. And he picked all these words, and the other guy said, out of 8 out of 10 words that you just said were all negatively based, So he stood him in front of the mirror and said, okay, now describe yourself, but instead of using those words, try to think of positive words, So instead of fat, he wrote built, I'm built. And again, he probably wrote 20 words or whatever on this window, and then on this mirror, and sort of stood back and read them all. And then he says, okay, now how do you feel about yourself? And he's like, yeah, a lot better. Because that stuff's all true. That's actually what I do feel about myself. It's just about the perception, right?
Yeah.
It's just about the way you word it and the way that you look at yourself. And if you're seeing it in a negative light, then you're going to be down on yourself. But if you can look at yourself in the mirror and find all the positive things and things that you like about yourself, and write those down in the mirror, grab your girl's lipstick or grab some lipstick or whatever, and write them on the window. Do whatever you can, write them down.
Yeah.
And just remind yourself of those things that are positive about yourself.
So I have a challenge for you. Every single one of you that watches this video, I have a challenge for you. And that challenge is get in touch with somebody in your life that's a positive person, somebody that's close to you, and ask them to describe you. You want 5 positive things that describe you. Just 5. Ask them. And write them down on a Post-it note. And post them in various places around your home. on your mirror when you brush your teeth in the morning, on the mirror when you check yourself before you go out to work, on your front door, in your car, to the back of your cell phone. Doesn't really matter. 5 positive things from somebody else about you. And every single day, you're going to see, I am whatever that is. I am confident. I am smart. I am compassionate. I am whatever they say about you in a positive light. Write them down, just 5. That's my challenge to you. And then let me know. Post to me on the messages below. Flood the messages below. And let us know the 5 things that people say about you. Because every single one of us view ourselves differently than the way somebody else perceives us. I know for the longest time I never ever viewed myself as confident. And I would put myself down. And there's a big long list. I could probably write 50, 60 things, like Ben said, of things that I feel negatively about myself. But if I asked people around me, what are my strengths? What do you see about me that I don't acknowledge for myself? And I challenge you to do the same. And if you can, post on the message below and share it with people you know. So one person at a time, we're going to build each other up. One person at a time, you're going to show each other the power of who you are and the beauty of who you are, the strength of who you are. Because those post-it notes are going to sit around your home and you're going to feel that every single day. You are going to feel the power and the truth of who you are. And I look forward to connecting next week. Hopefully we'll have Mel with us again next week. And I want to thank Ben for having a conversation with me today, because it would have been a bit boring sat here all by myself. And I thank Vocal House Studios for being available to record this for you today. Please share with your friends. Share the video. Tell people about Rebels Compass. This is our platform. This is our platform to grow and expand and share books that we are reading, meditations that we're doing, inspirational quotes, healing modalities, different locks for different doors, so that we can make that internal journey, so that we can actually look in the mirror and know that we are amazing human beings that have tremendous gifts. They're all different, but when we come together, we create an incredible planet. We support our families, we love each other, and we live the best life we can. And that's all we can ever wish for. So I hope you have a fantastic day filled with lots of love and happy experiences. Again, I want to thank Vocal House Studio for being here for me today. And goodbye, and I'll see you again next week. Have an amazing day.
Bye.